They just need to let me run the Game Awards next year, man.
The other games just be better. Like, just be better.
Do we want to talk AI real quick? Because let's be real, even the games that say they're not using it, they're probably using it. That rounds out all the big headlines, but we do have a bit of a discussion now, because obviously one of the biggest headlines of like the last week and a half, of course, was the Game Awards. Now, we're not going to break down the entirety of the Game Awards because, very frankly, that's a lot of news. It was like a 4 or 5 hour event, jam-packed with obviously awards being won, a lot of esports awards being handed out, as well as general gaming. So we're not going to cover all that, but of course, the biggest headline from that event was Expedition 33 taking home, I believe it was 11 awards.
Nope,
obviously nine, excuse me. They were up for 11 awards, if I remember correctly. So they won 9, which obviously was the most on the night. It also ties them for the series with the most awards. I believe that is The Last of Us as well as God of War, both of them winning. The Last of Us, I'm a little bit less sure on, but I know God of War is the other one that they're tied with. I know there's one other. But obviously winning a lot of awards on the night. And right now, there's some controversy about whether they deserve it, because they did have one award or 1 or 2 awards get taken away by other award shows because of some AI usage, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But in terms of rest of show news of what happened, biggest pieces were the announcements for games like Star Wars Fate of the Old Republic, a single player Star Wars game, got announced. Control Resonant, the sequel to Control, got announced. Mega Man got announced. I know High Guard also is getting a lot of flack right now because they're saying it's Concord 2.0, and they must have thrown some real money to be the final game announced on the night. Divinity, the sequel for Divinity, got announced and gave any children watching Trauma definitely should have had a little bit of a warning, but they're also in some hot water, Larian, because of the AI news with Expedition 33, so they'll be brought up later. And me personally, one of my most favorites, because I'm a strategy player through and through, Total War announced Total War Warhammer 40K, which a lot of players, there's no controversy, there's not even a release date, but I know players are super excited. Me and my friend have already dedicated, we're saying it's going to drop on a Friday, we're playing it all weekend. So a lot of big name games being released. But yeah, I mean, gentlemen, I know, Ged, we're probably going to talk about AI. I know you have a lot of thoughts on the AI. So Zero, if you want to kind of start this out, any thoughts on any of the games, any of the awards, thoughts on Expedition 33? If you want to just kick it off.
I mean, I personally haven't played Expedition 33 this year. It's still have it in my Steam library. I bought it.
Should play it. It's a great game.
Just haven't gotten around to it. I still gotta listen. I got some other stuff. I'm definitely not addicted to Valorant or anything. Don't spend that much
definitely
time.
not.
I promise, guys. I promise. But I think there's a lot of controversy that arounds the AI stuff, but I think the initial controversy, especially that was coming up with E33, was the fact that it won so many awards, right? That a lot of people were just upset that it was winning too many awards. It should be given the spotlight to other things. Everyone knows that it already won Game of the Year, so that just means the Game of the Year should win every section that it wins. And I personally don't really agree with that sentiment. I think if it's deserving of 9 awards, then it's deserving of 9 awards, and then honestly, then the other games just be better. Like just be better. Just like unlucky. Just like you're not good enough. And I think
I'll touch on that in a minute.
And in my opinion, if that's going to be, if it's an award show, I know some people think it's a lot of award shows are the point is to sell to sponsors, right? You're trying to get sponsors out there and trying to push that up, which I do understand. But from my point of view, I think it should be just a thing of, I mean, a meritocracy, right? If you're the best out there, you should be the one winning at the end of the day. So especially if it's an award show. So I understand the kind of backlash that it was getting, but also not necessarily agreeing with all of it. Also, shout out Silk Song. Been waiting so long.
You get me. You understand me.
Long.
You understand me.
But all my friends were like, "Yeah, E33, it beats it out." And I'll give it to them. I love Silk Song. It was fantastic. But it got action adventure game of the year, so it got its flowers at least, and so did Hades too. So I can't be too upset.
In a somewhat similar vein, I would like to preface by saying, first of all, please take everything I'm about to say with a grain of salt, as I have not played Expedition 33, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, or any of the other games I mentioned, unless it's Silk Song. But they just need to let me run the Game Awards next year, man. Like, what is this? On the one hand, I do agree that if a game is really good enough to win 9 awards, that it should win 9 awards. But on the other hand, it makes for a much less enjoyable show. A few years ago, during the 2020 Game Awards, they gave, like, every award that The Last of Us 2 was nominated for to that game. And frankly, a lot of people didn't agree with that one. When that game came out, it was pretty controversial in itself, but even looking past that, Expedition 33, a very good game from everything I've heard. I have yet to play it myself, but I have seen takes on Twitter from people who have played both games that said things like, yes, Expedition 33 was the best game I played this year, but it wasn't the best RPG I played this year. I've seen multiple people say that for its RPG elements, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was a better game. I have heard the soundtracks of both Hollow Knight Silk Song and Expedition 33. In my personal opinion, I think that the better soundtrack was Silk Song. And it's at a certain point, I think that it becomes a celebration of one game instead of a celebration of video games as a whole. And that kind of rubs me the wrong way a little bit. If I'm in charge of the Game Awards personally, I am allowing one game to win a maximum of 4 awards. Maybe that's controversial. Maybe that's not quite, like, fair to the best game of the year. But again, like, if a game wasn't the best in a specific category, but it was the best game of the year, does that mean that it should win that subcategory anyway? I would argue no, personally. But again, take it with a grain of salt. I have not played Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I have not even played Expedition 33. It is installed on my computer, and I plan to play it at some point.
Hey, you're one step further than me. I haven't even put it on my on my SSD.
Dude, I have so many long games to, like, play on my PC right now. I'm currently working my way through Nier Automata, which is an old game. I just never got around to playing it. But yeah, I mean, personally, I just think that if a game is good enough, it should win all of those categories. And again, I haven't played it yet, so I don't know. I could just be talking out of my ass here, but from things that I've heard people say, people that I trust, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 should have won RPG of the Year. I think Silk Song should have won Music of the Year. I frankly think Dispatch should have gotten a nomination instead of Expedition 33 getting 3 nominations in Vocal Performance of the Year. Laura Bailey got robbed in Visigal Forever. Even Aaron Yvette got robbed. Blonde Blazer was such an incredible vocal performance, but yeah, I mean, it did feel like a little bit of an overrepresentation, in my opinion, for E33 at the Game Awards, and it just wasn't as fun of a show to watch, you know? Like, last year when you're watching the Game Awards and it's like, oh, who's gonna win Game of the Year? Is it gonna be, like, Astrobot? Is it gonna be, I don't remember what else got nominated that year, but it ended up being Astrobot. And then it was Astrobot, and there's literally a clip on my Twitch channel of him saying, and the Game of the Year is Astrobot, and me going like, like freaking out, because that's what I was hoping for, you know? But like, when an award show is this predictable, it's just less fun. So that's my take on it. Maybe I'm a party pooper, but like, I don't know.
I have a very different perspective, and that's because I have played it. I played it
Mhm.
the same week it came out. I came like a week later that
Damn.
weekend. I ended up playing it. I
Mhm.
saw a lot of the hype for it, and people were saying it was good, and I took a shot on it. It was not
Mhm.
normally a game I would recommend, as it is straight up a JRPG. Um,
Mhm.
but I also really haven't played any of the other games. I didn't play Silksong. I didn't play
Mm.
Kingdom Come Deliverance. I didn't play Hades 2. Very frankly, none of them are really like my style of
Right.
game. I tested out Hades. I really wasn't the biggest fan. But yeah, I didn't really get to play any of the other ones. But the thing for me, and I could just be up here, just be like, well, Expedition's the best because it's really good, guys. It's worth it, even though I didn't play any of the others. But the thing for me though is when I compare it to the rest of the games that I've played, not just this year, but generally like through my life. To put in
Mm.
perspective, I picked up Expedition 33. I downloaded it at 4 p.m. when I was working. I work from home, so I was at my
Mm.
desk. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna buy it now. I'm gonna let it download. During my last hour of work, I'll get off work and I'll immediately play it. I booted it up at 5 o'clock. I blinked, and next thing I knew, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. I had not realized any time had passed. I was sitting in pitch darkness because I had not gotten up from my chair since 5 o'clock, and I never turned the lights in my room on. And I only got up because I realized I was really hungry because I had not eaten since that morning. I then proceeded to get up. I made myself a very, very late dinner at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Mhm.
And then I got
It's a little
back on the
late.
game and played until I couldn't keep my eyes open at 5 o'clock, went to bed, woke up around noon, got back on the computer, and played the game again. I
Productive weekends.
I have not had a game that has not just like made me go, "Oh, this is a good game," but had a stranglehold on
Just
me in terms
absorbed
of
you.
this game is so good that I physically cannot stop playing it since
Mhm.
Baldur's Gate 3.
Mhm.
Now, I think Baldur's Gate 3 is a better game. I personally do. That game got me that I have too many hours in that game. And Expedition 33 did grip me, but I have not played through it twice.
Right.
But that's because I know the game now, and I played so much of it that weekend, I kinda got burnt out. But
Mhm.
the game is so well made. The world is beautiful. The world building is insanely good. The
Mhm.
mechanics are not just like JRPG mechanics, but they evolved on them and added the blocking and the parrying aspects, which completely changed the way the game is played to traditional JRPGs. So not only is it just beautiful, not only is it really good, not only is it captivating, it made me cry on multiple occasions. It's also the only game I actually have a folder on my computer as I was playing through the game, especially the final like couple hours, I kept stopping and taking screenshots because the game
Yeah.
was so gorgeous that I was like, I'm gonna use this as my screen background
Mm.
because it's just so good. So
Right.
I do understand the world where people are like, it's just not entertaining. The game doesn't, or the game awards just were not entertaining. Maybe it doesn't deserve that many awards, or they shouldn't be giving out that many awards. But to say that the game does not deserve all the credit, I really think is just a lot of people who never played the game. I
Mm.
mean, I'm also not a big fan of video game music. I really do not listen to any other games OSTs. I have
Right.
multiple songs from the soundtrack Lumiere specifically. If you play the game,
Mm.
you
I've
know
heard
the song
Lumiere. That is a
Lumiere.
good
It's
song.
it
That
is
is a
a
good song.
gorgeous song. But yeah, no, I think the idea that it is undeserving is a little wild, but I can see the arguments of, maybe it shouldn't win that many awards, but it truly does
Mhm.
deserve that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we want to talk AI real quick since we're talking Expedition 33?
I mean, we can talk about it very briefly. I don't
Yeah.
have much to say other than the fact that I think it's kind of disappointing. I think it's interesting that yeah, I was texting a friend of mine who was initially shocked that Silk Song did not win Game of the Year because she has also not played Expedition 33 and she wasn't really aware of it either. And I mean, I texted her and I was like, I don't know. I've been told by a lot of people that the game is utterly phenomenal, and I believe them. A few days later, after the AI thing comes out, she texts me back and she's like, I think that the Game Awards should strip the awards given to it because of that. Frankly, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. I mean, they gave Arc Raiders multiplayer game of the year. Like, and we've known since day one that Embark Studios loves AI in their games. They did it with the finals, they did it with Arc Raiders.
Yep.
They're not going to strip the award away from any of the awards away from Expedition 33. And I don't know. Do I think they should? No, not really. Do I think Arc Raiders should have won multiplayer game of the year? No, not really. I just, the more we see AI get used in games, the less games become art forms, if that makes sense to me. And I think that games as an art form is kind of what a lot of the big single player games of recent years have been, you know? It's these grand emotional storytelling games, these extremely artistically gorgeous games like Hollow Knight and Expedition 33. The more that the human touch gets taken away from games like this, I think the lesser quality they're going to be. And I don't think it's a standard that we should be celebrating or promoting in this industry personally. I think that there having been human effort and soul put into these games is so important, and I'm very afraid that AI just being so normalized at this point is going to be a problem.
Yeah, I think that I'm very interested to see and just know like what the generative AI was specifically used for, because I do think it, in my opinion, it definitely depends on what it is being used for. Because if it's using an asset that is already made by a human and going in and like filling in that asset with stuff, or like backlogging, or just doing menial task that isn't part of that creative process, where it's just like assisting in that back ends part where you're like, okay, it just needs to like fill in assets or fill in this, and just saving time like that, where it's really just like the same thing over and over and over again, where that's really what AI is used. But then if it's like, what really sucks to see when it's used for like story points or storyboarding or character like design, like references, I think there it really kind of, like you said, like just draws the art aspect of it out, especially as like these single player games have become more and more of an art form. I mean, even with like stuff like, I mean, it just is an art form. It's a story to tell, especially with like Expedition 33. That's specifically why so many people thought it was such a phenomenal game. I mean, games like Dispatch as well, right? Where it's just like a game about focused around the story, and it's a story driven game. I think it really sucks to see, and so hopefully there can be more transparency in the future, especially moving forward into 2026. I know there's regulations on Steam about it, and I know Tim Sweeney over at the Epic Games Store is really against there being regulations on AI information being out there, which really sucks to see as a consumer. But hopefully, moving forward, at least the Game Awards maybe next year can address some of those AI issues, or like just kind of have a public statement about it, or come forward with a better idea of how they want to approach this issue, because I think it is a very important one to touch on in a space, in a environment where I feel like a lot of gamers and a lot of people really appreciate the human aspect of uh, the game creation. Because if AI is just taking over full development, obviously it wasn't a full development of Expedition 33, but you don't want it to get to that point, right?
Yeah, I think my rule of thumb, as always, is if there is any AI or like generative AI that makes it into the final release, that's no bueno. No good. That is just not great. I think in my brain, the way I always look at it, and this is also by the fact that I have many friends who are artists. I have a friend who quite literally went to school for art. They got a master's degree. Um, and I hear their opinions all the time. My thing is if the AI usage costs any actual human jobs is where I start going, okay, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Because like you said, that is taking human hands away from what a lot of people, especially in the current landscape of games, gaming is slowly becoming more and more of an art form, like outright. It's obviously there's been games that have been art, but especially with like the likes of Call of Duty and such, it became a lot more mechanical over the last couple of years. But with Baldur's Gate 3, with Expedition 33, it's becoming more like an art piece, and people are putting more um thought into how the game devs are actually making their games. I personally, I know there's a lot of back and forth right now with what Expedition 33 has said that they have been using or that they used AI. There's also a lot of talk about Larian announcing that they are using AI for their next game. I think that the hate that they're getting right now is a little overblown. And that is because there's a lot of people talking about them using generative AI, which technically they are, but they're also kind of not. It is not entering the actual finish process of the game at all. To give a little bit of insight here, first Expedition 33, they have come out with clarifications recently, because there was an article in which they were talking about how AI makes everything a little bit easier for them, and that they were happy that it helps speed up the process, especially with smaller, dev teams. It does help. They made clarifications that generative AI was not particularly used by them. It's not like they were going and saying, hey, we want this, this, and this. Can you make an asset for me? What ended up being the circumstances, one of their team members in the early stages of the game used generative AI assets that were on the Unreal Engine 5 market. So built into the engine itself, there's a market where you could buy assets to use them for your games. They use some of those assets made by Unreal Engine 5 in order to act as placeholders. In the end, they did end up having actual concept artists and actual artists go through and make those assets with their own human hands, which they then added. The only I will say, I said that, the moment it makes it to the game, that's where there's a problem. Technically, there was generative AI in the game for 5 days. They did notice that on release, if you've ever played the game, there's the big event that happened at the very beginning where there's like a lot of like confetti. It's all red. I'm not going to spoil the game for you if you haven't watched it. But around the city, there's a bunch of posters talking about it and all that. And apparently for the first couple of days, while they did have the assets made, they forgot, and it got passed over during the quality assurance stage to actually change out those assets. So for the first couple of days, there were generative AI, but the moment it got noticed, the next patch after they noticed it immediately swapped them out for their actual human-made assets. So I don't think that's crazy. I don't, because again, they used them as placeholders immediately. Then human hands went back and redid the work. So I don't think it really will cost anyone their jobs. I'm personally kind of fine with that. And then Larian, they have come out and clarified, though they have been very back and forth. They have not just put out a whole announcement being like, hey guys, this is what we're doing. They were much more scattered, and a lot of individual devs came out to try to describe exactly what they were doing, which created mixed messaging, which made the situation a million times worse. They are going to be having a Q&A to kind of break down intricately what they are going to be using AI for and how they're going to be using it. But the general understanding is they are not going to have any generative AI even be placeholders from my understanding of it. So like, for instance, during the art process, a lot of artists, I think almost every artist gets reference images. So they will pull from sources online, they find images, and then they use those as a reference for when they are creating their own pieces of art. Picking pieces off of different pieces of art and going, oh, I want that vibe with, that, and, picking apart those pieces to create their own art using references. They are basically streamlining that by using generative AI to create reference images. So they are going into systems and say, hey, we want to see a mountain with a range with this many peaks and a river flowing, between them. And then they are using those generative AI images to that have concept artists use those for references to then make concept art, which will then get turned into actual art. So not even using them as concept images, they are just using them for reference images for those concept artists, which I personally, I'm kind of fine with. I don't know. It's a lot less of an issue for me, but I do also know there's a lot of people who are very staunchly against AI in general, which I do not really fault anyone for that. But I don't think we should absolutely just be dooming one of the most well-respected and also one of the best community-oriented game developers in the history of gaming for very, very, very simple AI usage. That I think is a lot less egregious than probably 90% of the industry. Because let's be real, even the games that say they're not using it, they're probably using it. They're just not willing to take the backlash, frankly. I don't know about smaller devs, but I'm almost positive if we go back and look, the next like 5 years of AAA games and maybe the last year and a half, they're all going to have some form of usage one way or another, whether it's big scale of, that was a part of the plan, or if it was just individuals going, I don't want to do this. I'm going to use generative AI to create this, and then I'll do something with it later. So I don't think it's as egregious as people are saying it is. I don't think we should doom Larry, and I don't think we should doom Sandfall for some of the more lax usage of a very controversial thing.
I think we can move on a little bit at this point because for all of the controversy surrounding the Game Awards actual nominations and the awards and such that were given, there were a lot of really cool announcements made in this event. And I mean, earlier when I said I think they should let me run the show next year, I will reinforce that here because I know how to pace a show. Why did you finish with Highguard? Highguard looks really good. Highguard looks really good. I'm not gonna lie. I will be playing it. Former Respawn devs on that game who worked on Titanfall and Apex Legends are making a like magic gun hybrid game where you ride on horses, and it looks cool. I'm definitely gonna be giving it a try. But why was that your last announcement of the night? Like, actually, that should have been a mid-show announcement at best. Like, you should have ended with Fate of the Old Republic. Straight up. Absolutely should have. That was a very short trailer that didn't give too much away, except for the fact that there's a new Old Republic game coming out. And that is probably like the biggest news of the night. That's what I'm very excited for. But other games that I was interested in, during the pre-show, they showed a trailer for a game called Stupid Never Dies. The trailer was kind of corny, admittedly, but I think the game looks interesting.
Thanks.
I'm definitely going to be giving it a peek when it comes out. Obviously, the new Divinity trailer was pretty cool. Resident Evil Requiem got a new trailer. That was awesome. Control is getting a sequel with Control Resonant, as you mentioned earlier. One of the games I am most excited for in this Game Awards is a new game from the original Yakuza developer Toshihiro Nagoshi, Gang of Dragon. That game looks so sick. I am very excited for it. As someone who loves the Yakuza franchise, I cannot wait for it. Tomb Raider is back as a franchise. Both of the games they announced look really good. They announced a new character for Invincible Versus, an upcoming fighting game. New expansion for Diablo 4. They announced, they gave us a trailer for the new James Bond game developed by IO Interactive, the Hitman devs. And the villain is being played by rock star Lenny Kravitz, which I think is genuinely hilarious.
Yeah.
He looks sick as a villain, too. He looks sick as a villain.
He looks really cool. Star Wars Galactic Racer looks pretty awesome. But my favorite announcement of the entire night, new Mega Man, baby! Let's go! Blue Bomber's back! I am genuinely so happy. I love Mega Man. Dual Override 2027. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm super excited for that game. It's been a while since we've gotten one, and listen, Mega Man, never really grew up with him, and then got into the games on the 3DS. So very excited to get a little bit of that. Not super nostalgia, but I'm so excited. And then also, I believe as well, Out of Worlds was announced, which looks absolutely beautiful. So super excited for that game personally. I love just super pleasing games to the eyes, and we were talking about it earlier, right? Clair Obscure, Silk Song, very very pretty games. And listen, if you got a good looking game, you've already got my attention. You just gotta get me in, get the story good, and I'm there. I'm there.
True.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think my standout for the night, honestly, a lot of these games didn't really click with me personally in terms of what I play. I never played any of the Star Wars The Old Republic games. Never did. So I
Highly
didn't play
recommend.
Control. I've never played a Mega Man game. I was never a Nintendo or Sega kid growing up. The big game for me, especially with the friend that I was watching with, was the Total War Warhammer 40K.
Yeah.
That is a franchise that obviously is very well loved. Obviously, the tabletop game is one of the biggest in the world. The franchise Total War has a cult-like following. Total War Warhammer, just the base, is incredibly popular. I mean, they just released a new expansion for it as well just a couple days ago. It's really fun, by the way. They're incredible. And I think this might just be the potential to kind of blow open the market, because there's going to be a lot of people flooding to that game when it comes out, because man, it looked good. I mean, the trailer even had a little bit of gameplay in at the end, and my friend, I remember sitting with him, and he was just like, how's this gonna look? How are they gonna do it? They kind of have, like, between the Warhammer 40K games and the Total War, how are they gonna make it work? And I've never seen that man so happy when they showed the gameplay. He was like, this is perfect. This is exactly what we want. They couldn't have done it any better, and we're just seeing a couple seconds of it. So I think that game has the potential to be absolutely insane. I don't think it's gonna be like game of the year or anything. It's a much more niche genre. It's an RTS game. But I think if there is an award for like a strategy game, which whenever it comes out, whether that's late 2026, 2027, even 2028, I think it will be up there as one of the greatest of all time if they can hit the landing for it.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Alrighty, everyone, that is gonna be all we have for you today. It was an extra long one. This might even be split up into 2 videos, so if you're seeing this on 2 episodes, hello, it's been a long recording for us. A lot of news across the board. But with all that being said, Zero, Ged, any final thoughts?
I mean, an exciting week of news, a lot of drama going on, but I just thank you guys for having me on. I'm excited to be here and excited to be on future episodes. It was a good time, and I'm looking forward to bringing you guys at home some more news in the upcoming weeks. Should be a good time to look forward to.
Yeah. I'm very excited for the next few months here. Obviously, I mean, we've been talking a little bit about how the year's kind of wrapping up for everybody, but there is one esport that has its big major, end-of-year major at the beginning of a calendar year, and that's Rainbow Six Invitational coming up in just over a month here, so pretty excited about that one. Other than that, yeah, we're winding down. We're getting off-season news for basically everything at this point, so we'll see you next time.
Absolutely. And we're going to be going even farther. CDL's also happening. That it's War 1 weekend as of recording, so that is going to be firmly underway by next recording. And honestly, a lot of esports do start up in late January, so we're going to be building into the next season. So there is a lot. So of course, make sure you are subscribed, make sure you have notification bell on and all that jazz, so you are filled in with all the new information. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. Have a good night.